Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Senior Center Tech Connect in Longmont, Colorado. Today we're talking about using artificial intelligence to find stuff on the internet. And you can see here I used artificial intelligence to create this little graphic by putting into ChatGPT. I want an image of a human entering a query on the left side with a flow moving from left to right. Include the notion of an internet search. And this is what it came up for me. So that's a one-of-a-kind personalized image created by ChatGPT. So let's take a look at, well, first of all, real quick, a little bit about me. I was a high-tech marketing guy before I retired back in 2020. Believe it or not, I grew up with computers. The reason I say believe it or not is I came from a small town in Wyoming. I guess that's redundant. All towns in Wyoming are small. But anyway, and in the 1960s, the high school had a computer, and I fell in love with it and haven't looked back. I actually was an application software programmer for a while, and I'm a Mac guy at heart. I will boot Windows if I have to, but please don't ask me to do that. Anyway, and the picture there might give you an idea why my nickname is Bobski. So I always like to kind of orient the presentation. So this presentation is for you if you use the internet to search for stuff, or you search for stuff on the internet, which would include just about anyone, I guess. You want to know more about how internet search works, or you want to know how AI can help you search the internet. We are going to talk about some pitfalls, and you may want to know about those, or of course, if you're just curious. So here's what we're going to be looking at. I always like to break these presentations into kind of two major categories. The first one is what I call the not particularly useful but mildly entertaining section. And generally that's kind of how things work, which if you just want to get your job done, you don't particularly care how it works, but we're going to go into that for background anyway. And then the other section is the informative and hopefully useful section, and that's the section that we have the pop quiz on at the end, so pay attention to that. So what is a search engine? Well, in a word or two, let's just say it's an app that helps you find stuff on the internet, and that makes pretty good sense, right? The internet's a wild and woolly place. It's got lots of information, and it's tough to find things at times. So real quick, we did this in the in-person session. How frequently do you search the internet? Pretty much everyone does, at least once a day. What do you look for that you can mention? And we're going to talk about that. Which search engine do you generally use? This is kind of an interesting poll. And do you generally find what you're looking for? So I asked ChatGPT, what do people search for on the internet? And I also said, only give me the top 5. Categorize it in 5 different categories. And at the top was information and news, about 30%. And then entertainment and pop culture, shopping and e-commerce, health and wellness, and then technology and gadgets. I use the internet a lot to figure out how to use my iPhone, for example, because I can never remember all those settings. And that breaks down into a little pie chart, which ChatGPT politely provided for me, that looks like this. So there are lots of search engines. Of course, the best known is Google, perhaps Microsoft Bing. DuckDuckGo is gaining in popularity. There's one called Brave. Brave purports to be even more secretive about blocking advertisers and such. Yahoo, Ask. Remember there was a thing called Ask Jeeves? Anyway, those are some of the search engines, and that gives you an idea of the apps that you may have on your phone or on your other devices like your computers. Now I always find this video interesting here. We're going to cover about 30 years of search engines, which is basically 30 years since the internet was invented. And let's start out in 1994. And you can see there was a thing called Lycos. I didn't use Lycos much. I used a thing called Alta Vista, which you can see down here. And remember there was Ask Jeeves and and so on. We're going to skip through the next 5 years or so fairly quickly. And you can see Alta Vista floated to the top. It floated to the top quickly. And then, of course, AOL came along, and then there was the MSN search engine. But guess what happened about 1998? See this little multicolored G? It came into the it came onto the market. So let's look at the next 25 years. Notice that little multicolored G. Considering this is what that company does for a living, they don't sell any products. It's kind of interesting that it has now become the most popular search engine in the world by far. Baidu is, I believe, a Chinese search engine. You can see DuckDuckGo wasn't even on the list a couple of years ago, so it's increasing in popularity. But guess what happened in early 2023? This little thing called ChatGPT came on the scene. So we're going to cover a little more slowly the next 18 months. And look at ChatGPT. ChatGPT has grown faster than Google did back when it was came on the scene. And we're going to talk a lot more about ChatGPT. ChatGPT is essentially a chatbot that now will search the internet for you. So as of November 2024, you can see Google only has 77% of the worldwide market, and ChatGPT has 2.8. Bing is actually doing pretty well, and I think that's due to Microsoft heavily pushing Bing in its AI counterpart called Copilot. We're going to talk more about that here in a minute. So let's look at how search engines work. Remember, this is the mildly entertaining but not particularly useful section. First of all, let's look at the internet here, and we've got some sample websites, right? The internet search, and especially Google, has probably one of the reasons for popularity is it has the biggest, baddest web crawler in the world here, and it actually goes through every single website that it's available, that it can find. And it looks at every single word and every single website, and it puts those words into a really big database. And when I say really big, 100 petabytes. A petabyte is a million gigabytes. So you've got 100 million gigabytes in this database. And this database is oriented by, you can access records in the database by the word. We're going to talk more about that. For example, if I look for the word apple, in this database, the word apple has 1 million different lines. So Google, for example, you type in apple, it goes to the database, it pulls back, and inside that record that's labeled apple are all of the websites that contain the word apple. So there's bazillions of those, as you might imagine. So let's look at how it works when you enter a query for a search. For example, how many apples are sold each day? I type this into my my search engine. The search engine runs out to this really big database. It looks at every word in here, and then it aggregates those records to produce a result that contains all of the words that you entered into that search engine. And there's a bunch of magic involved, and we're going to talk more about that later. But that's the basis of how a search engine works, is essentially looks at all the words you typed, runs out the internet, finds all the pages that have all those words, puts them all together, and then a miracle is performed, and it presents you with the results. While we're here, and this isn't really AI, but it's more about how search engines work, you can enter different qualifiers. For example, this is in Google search. I can say apples space site : apple.com, and it will only find the word apple in the web page that ends in apple.com. And you can see the example here, and that's sometimes pretty useful for narrowing down searches. And there's a lot of other things you can use or capital O's to say, for example, marathon or race. So it will find pages that have both of those words in it. DuckDuckGo has similar qualifiers that when you're entering a search, you can use some specific modifiers in the search. This works in Google as well. You can say type PDF, and it will only find PDF documents when you're doing your search. So these are kind of cool shortcuts you can use when you're searching. All of the search engines also have the capability of filtering their responses. Now, this is before AI even comes into play, which is what we're going to talk about here in a minute. But for example, in Google, if I type in how many apples are sold each day, these filters are available, and I can say show me everything, only show me images, only show me pages that refer to shopping or news, so on. And there's additional filters under the tools section. You can specify the time, like you can say I only want pages that have been modified in the last 24 hours, for example. Bing and DuckDuckGo have similar modifiers. One of them in Bing is to select an AI response, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. Microsoft's AI companion chatbot is called Copilot. All right, we've seen how search engines work. So now let's take a look at how AI works. First of all, what is artificial intelligence? Now, of course, you have to ask artificial intelligence to get that answer. And this is what ChatGPT came up with. The important thing there is that it's simulating how humans think, or it makes computers think like humans is how we look at it. And in the context of searching the internet, these AI-aided search engines, the important parts are understanding language, almost any language, by the way, and evaluating and summarizing key information. Now, AI has been around for a long time, probably 20, 30 years, but this new natural language understanding and being able to create images, that's all pretty new. That's come about because of advances in computer science and especially advances in chip technology, like GPUs that are used in using AI computations. Here, let's do this. So AI is based on neural networks, which is how the human brain works. So I asked Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, to create an image of a human head with a semiconductor chip inside and neural networks, and it came up with this. So this is my picture of a neural network in silicon, essentially. We mentioned that it mimics the human brain. Now, the important thing about artificial intelligence is it needs training. In the case of ChatGPT, for example, they used terabytes and terabytes, things like dialogues from movies and the contents of books to train the AI in understanding and how data and how to solve problems. I mentioned this, that it's made possible by semiconductor. If you look at your phone right now, it's got a neural engine in it, they call it an NPU, that for the Apple 15, I think, the iPhone 15, 35 trillion operations per second. And if you're an old computer guy like I am, we used to measure computers in thousands of operations per second. So it's just mind-boggling. So let's look at this analogy here. It works pretty well. It kind of falls off in a couple of areas, but imagine that you've got this huge library. I mean, basically an infinite library. And it's filled with all kinds of stuff, books, videos, reference on any kind of information that you might want. And there's a librarian that's there to help you. And she has memorized the entire library. She knows where everything is. She knows how to access it. And importantly, she knows how to talk to you about it. You can chat with the librarian to clarify your question. And this is probably the number one thing that an AI-assisted search engine provides you is this ability to chat with it. No longer do you say, well, Google gave me a list of 20 sites. I really wasn't looking for that. So you type the whole query in with maybe some additional information about what you're looking for in an attempt to narrow down the sites that you are provided. With an AI-assisted chatbot that's searching the internet, it remembers your conversation. And we're going to talk more about that in a second. But that's a really important part of this. The library can recognize handwriting, and I have examples in the AI genealogy presentation that I have. I have a will from my third great grandmother that was written in Tennessee back in the early 1800s, and she hand wrote it. And I just said, ChatGPT, can you transcribe this? And it read the handwriting, which is crazy. It can also create images or even videos. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Or music. So it's a very brilliant library. So let's look at how we put these together, AI and search engines. We call these chatbots, and the reason we call them chatbots is obviously you can chat with them. They're kind of robot-ish, which is where the name comes from. And the idea behind having a chatbot is it improves the accuracy of your search, your initial search, and it allows you to chat with the chatbot to narrow it down really quickly. So you find better answers more quickly with a chatbot. Also, and we're really not going to talk about that too much, but all of the major AI tools like ChatGPT and Copilot and Google Gemini can create documents for you. And you can say, hey, write me a poem about someone listening to a presentation, and it will write the poem for you. If we get some time, we'll talk about that. And as we've seen, it also generates images and videos. So specifically in helping an internet search, the ability to understand your language, and it's a natural language. You don't have to have these artificial constructs like capital O or capital N and have it in a certain logical manner. You can talk to these chatbots just like you're talking to the worldwide librarian, right? AI is good at filtering and summarizing the information, and then it provides you the information back in natural language format, assuming that you're asking about some facts or whatever. And it just like you're talking with it to get the information that you searched for. Here's some of the current, as of March of 2025, AI search chatbots. I use ChatGPT a lot because number one, it was the first one. Number two, I pay for a subscription. Almost all of these, in fact, I believe all of them, have a limited free access. So if you go to chatgpt.com, everything we're doing here today, you can do on your own. Just go to chatgpt.com. You will probably have to register, and you're probably limited without a subscription. You're limited to the number of queries you can make in a day or a number of hours. But in general, you can sit there and chat with it as if you were paying for a subscription. So let's look at some demo here, and we will come back to this, but we'll go to ChatGPT and ask it some of these things. So for example here, and these are some examples we have already on our slides here. If I ask Copilot how many apples are sold each day, and you can see that it just gives me a very verbose, hopefully precise answer to my question. The cool thing about Copilot is this little footnote here. This little footnote will take you to the web page. You can see it pops up a URL there. It will take you to the web page where it found this particular data. So you're able to go back and say, Is this really true? And you can look at the actual web page. Similarly, here's another footnote. So it gives you references on how it arrived at this text, and then it produces in natural language the information that you presumably were looking for. I did the same thing with ChatGPT, how many apples are sold. I would hope that these answers would be similar. ChatGPT will give you the web pages at the end of its, I don't have them here, at the end of its response. So it will tell you where it found the answers. Notice at the end, ChatGPT always does this. It always follows up. Would you like more specific, a more specific estimate? It will ask you a question that presumably will aid you in narrowing down the results that you wanted. And in this particular case, in ChatGPT's case, I came back and I said, when I say apple, I mean apple with a capital A. And notice the response. Ah, got it. You meant Apple, the tech company. This is ChatGPT responding to me. And of course, then it goes to talk about how many apples devices are sold each day. So that's another example of carrying on a conversation with the ChatGPT or the chatbot. Another cool AI-assisted search is called Google Lens. And Google Lens is available to anyone. You just go to google.com, and in the search bar over on the right-hand side is a little camera icon. And if you click on that, it will ask you to upload an image, and then it will search the internet for that kind of image. And in this particular case, this is one of my 4 Aussies, toy Aussie named Indy. And I took her picture and I went to Google Lens and I said, find me pictures like this. And you can see it came up with available Aussie puppies, little Aussies, around the ring, best little Aussies, and so on. One thing that kind of perplexed me, though, was it also came up with a couple of pages that mentioned Chihuahuas. And I was like, well, no, this is a miniature American Aussie, not a Chihuahua, until I had her DNA done. She's 45% Chihuahua. And I think we rescued her from a gentleman who had passed away from cancer, and his wife couldn't take care of Indy, and she swore it was a purebred miniature American Shepherd, but we can see that it's not. So that's kind of an interesting thing. The reverse image search found some pages that I wouldn't have thought about finding. So that's an example of Google Lens. Oh, you can see there 45%. These chatbots are all also great at creating images. This is Bing Copilot Designer. You can go to copilot.com, and that's Microsoft's AI assistant. You can see some of this is a little wonky, these faces. The reason is that these images are really expensive in terms of compute cycles to create. They use what they call an adversarial algorithm. So one part of the AI will create a blank slate and it'll say, does this look like a bunch of apples? And the other one will say, no, it needs to have, this, this, and this, and it feeds it back. And it goes iterates like that until it comes up with a reasonable solution. And so the reason that these are not very good images in some cases is because the AI vendor, in this case Microsoft, puts a limit on the number of cycles you can go through, just for practicality. It's basically saying this is good enough. And you'll see this a lot if you're generating images. Big movie studios and such that use AI have their own server farms, and they'll let it run for a long time, and it will create much more precise images. A little bit on the side. So I went to a site called Descript.com, and I said, create me a video tutorial that represents an AI-assisted internet search.
In a world full of endless information, AI-powered search helps you find exactly what you need, fast. With precision and intelligence, it scans the web, connects the dots, and delivers results tailored just for you. Smarter searches, better answers, AI is here to guide the way.
So it created that little short video all by itself. I mean, I didn't do any of the artwork or anything. You can see there's still a watermark on here because I didn't pay for it either. And so Descript put their little watermark on it. There are some very sophisticated video creation AI bots these days. All right, let's talk a little bit about searching and security. And it seems like today, whenever we talk about any subject, somewhere along the way, we need to talk about scammers because they are everywhere. And now scammers are using AI. And they use AI in internet searches. So for example, I typed in help with Epson printer into Google, and I got this list of, this is after the AI summary that was generated. I got this list of web pages here, and you can see that some of these are sponsored. And what happens is scammers pay to have their URL, their website, float to the top. So these probably are scammers. And if you're not paying attention, you will just go, oh, okay, I'm going to call or click on just answer. They'll give me an 800 number to call, and you're really calling a scammer. And he'll pretend like he did a bunch of stuff to your computer and charge you $1,000, and nothing will get done. So be very careful about that. So what you do, you can see here, this is not Epson, and I want Epson help on my printer. It turns out way down here at the bottom, and I can see the URL, it says Epson.com. So I could go to this website. So the way to do this is there's a lot of times, in this case, DuckDuckGo has a little icon that says this is an ad. And you saw Google has a sponsor, it says sponsored. And those ads are generally scammers. So look for the specific URL for the company that you want help from. Or even better, go to your browser and type in hp.com. In this case, we're looking for help for HP printers, like I mentioned here. So that's kind of it on search engines and AI. This movie is interesting. We'll run this here in a second. But AI is definitely here to stay. There's no question about it. And AI is groundbreaking. It's like inventing electricity, or when the internet became available. It's that big a deal. Can AI be wrong? Yes, undoubtedly it can be wrong. I equate it to a used car salesman. When you're out shopping for a car and you got this slick talking salesman, and you ask him a question that he doesn't know the answer for. Like how many cubic inches is this engine or something. And they'll make it up on the fly. They'll make up the answer on the fly, but they say it with great enthusiasm. AI is just like that. You'll get the most flowery, wonderful response. And if you look more closely, it may not make any sense. So be careful with AI. So I did fib about the quiz, so we're not going to have a quiz. This video, I went to a site called LTX Studio, and I said, create a movie of A Grateful Goodbye. This is scene 16. It created, not only did it create, it's actually 18 scenes in total, I believe. Not only did it create a scene description, like this is a wide angle shot, it's taken in low light, and it's taken from a corner of the room, and it will tell you about the actors, and then it goes on to scene 2, and then it creates the video for it. And in this case, all the way to scene 16, it created this, in this particular case, and I didn't ask it this, it created a teacher that was saying goodbye to his students. So you can see this is AI generated, the crowd is cheering, thank you, thank you, thank you. And that was just scene 16 out of 18. So it's crazy. If you have any more questions, come to our website, longmontsctc.org, and we have a YouTube channel. which is presumably how you found this video. And you can ask for help. You can sign up for our emails. We have many presentations on a wide range of technical topics. These are some of the references that I used to create this. And so that's that. Give us a holler if you need some help, and we look forward to seeing you at one of our drop-ins if you need some help.
Well, friends, that's a wrap. We hope you've enjoyed this video today. Hey, before you go, if you like this video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. And if you'd like to know when the latest SCTC video comes out, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. And if you have any ideas or feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Be sure to leave a comment below. We'll see you next time.